Fellow elementalists, I am going to need your help with something, and I'm going to need a lot of help with this something. You might have noticed that there is a fairly sizable lack of Elements content compared to how much, I genuinely do enjoy the game, and I think I can demonstrate that with, how I'm talking, how I'm acting, how I'm playing when I do actually go through a lot of these videos. I really do like this game. I really do want to promote it. I really do want to have fun with it, and I really do want to share those experiences as I go along. The problem is, I am not very good at any of those things. Well, actually, no. So, it's so hard to figure out how to put this into words. I guess the best way to put it, when it comes to card games, there's multiple types of people with various types of personalities, but you can narrow down some of the most successful people to two types of successes that they will experience. There's the kind of success that I experience with card games, which is the pilot, being very methodical, being able to spot different nuances based on the resources that you have, being a methodical player. I would say that, at least for most card games that I play and know how to play, I am an above average player. The other type of person who interacts with card games and can see a specific type of success are the creative people. They are generally the deck builders. I am not a very creative person. And if I'm being completely honest, I think Elements is great. I appreciate how many types of cards that they do have in the game between the 12 elements. And honestly, I am of the opinion that when you have card games like this, the more cards that are in the general card pool is just better. It allows for growth, it allows for diversity, it allows for new strategy. It just allows the game to grow and expand and be a better game than it was before when it had less cards. I do hold that opinion, but I cannot capitalize that on that very well. I am not a creative person. I have a lot of trouble designing decks. As a matter of fact, even though this deck in it's very bare bones, it's very simple, it's very basic in its most basic form. It's a Windrush deck. You get the Quana out, you get the big creatures out, you press next turn, watch the damage numbers go down, and go forth. I obviously I'm not even the first person to try and play a deck like this, but when I played the original version of Elements, this was the type of deck that I played exclusively because I didn't go out and search for specific resources to try and find deck lists. So this was the one that I created from the grounds up, and this is kind of like my passion project when it came to Elements. And as far as deck building, this is pretty much all I can offer. And let's be realistic, it's super straightforward, it's super bare bones. There's really not too much of anything clever about it. So, yeah, I would say that even though I'm a decent pilot, I am not a very good deck builder. And that has resulted in a lot of lack of Elements content, because I also kind of feel that when you're redoing the same kind of content over and over again, things can get very stale. They're not fun to watch, and they're not fun to do. Like, eventually, if I just, maybe a little bit less so with me, I feel like I can play a deck consistently over and over again and still just have as much fun the first time, because there's enough variety with the types of decks I'm fighting. But for a lot of people, if they were playing only one deck over and over again, eventually that'll get stale and it won't be fun to be a pilot. I think that, pilots and deck builders they need to coexist and succeed off of each other. I think that, pilots need the deck builders to have success with a deck, and deck builders need pilots to demonstrate the success of a deck. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I want to be a pilot. Pretty much always have, always will. Especially for this game. I really do like this game. I don't know if I said this yet in my endless ramblings, but I want to promote it. I want to keep getting better at it, but I am not creative enough to do so. So I have two options. One, I can make 2 or 3 more videos about Dreamface or Grading Guile or Windrush, eventually get bored of it and call it a day. Or I could reach out to you, the community, and go with Plan B. And spoiler alert, I am going with Plan B here. That's the whole point of this video. Where I basically say, give me your deck ideas and I will make videos about them. I want, in order for me to keep going forward with Elements, I do want to go all out with this. And I want you guys to be as excited as I am about this next step forward as well. So eventually I'm going to run out of deck ideas. Well, who am I kidding? I don't have any more deck ideas. I showed you my one, and here you guys go. This is my contribution to the community. No, I can contribute more. I just need more foundation. I just need more support through that foundation in order to keep going up. So there are essentially 2 types of projects I'm going to be doing when it comes to Elements videos as I release them. The first one is, let's start with the first one because it's a little bit more simpler and a little bit more fundamental for what I'm trying to do. If you have any deck ideas that you've been working on that you're passionate about that you think can work, and you whether or not you've playtested them doesn't matter. You can send me the deck ideas. Give me a basic rundown as to what the game plan is or what you're trying to do with this deck. I can do deck reviews. I can do on-screen playtesting. If you want, I can do deck suggestions for how I would change the deck. Although, if we're being completely fair, probably all of my deck suggestions would just be add precognition to turn 30-card decks into 24-card decks, because, let's be real, precognition may be one of the, or upgraded precognition, I should say, is probably one of the best cards in the game. But other than that, give me your deck ideas. I'll play them. I'll test them. I'll showcase them. Of course, I'm going to give anybody who sends me their deck list full absolute credit. If you send it to me through the Discord, I'll mention what your username on the Discord channel is. Otherwise, I can also credit anybody else you ask me to if it was a group effort. I have no problem with giving every single ounce of credit where credit's due. I just need new decks and new deck ideas that I can learn how to play and figure out how to play in order to keep making content for this. The next part of the project that I'm looking to do, and I'm already looking to do this for the Grading Guile deck and the Dreamface deck. I am not going to show it yet because there's a lot more work I still have to do. But I am going to be making a demigod matchup list. So, for example, for the Grading Guile deck, when you're trying to do demigod farming, there are some cards that, or some decks that you go up against that are automatic wins. Like, if you're going up against an Anubis, Anubis's game plan is throw out some poison, but he gets most of his jollies just through the cloak that he throws out. If you can get Singularity out on the field, beguile it, and get it fully upgraded before he throws out the cloak, then you just keep on skipping your turn. Anubis generally can't do enough to outrace a Singularity that is multiplying itself and growing and dealing much more damage than he could dish out over the course of you drawing cards through your deck. So Anubis is a very good matchup, because if you're fast enough to outrace his game plan, your game plan will just succeed. There's another one, I forget what it is, I think it's like Odious or something like that. Forget that, because Odious is the complete shutdown of Grating Guile. If he doesn't silence you, which silence only lets you play 2 cards per turn, and your 2 cards per turn would have to be Supernova, in order to get a Singularity out. After that, the Singularity is kind of stuck on your side of the board, unless you want to take, a Singularity hit before you can, get the Beguile and Regrade onto their side of the board. But even after that, if you take a single hit from your own Singularity and it multiplies, then you're just kind of left in the dust for that. Not only that, but Odious also has Unsummon and Rewind, both of which will completely get rid of your Singularity that you put on their side of the board. So in one card, which he would fundamentally have multiple copies of, he can shut down your entire game plan after you dump your entire hand to meet that. So yeah, Odious is such a bad matchup for Grating Guile that you just need to skip it. And I'm creating a spreadsheet that is very easy to kind of like look at a quick glance. So all of the columns will be the deck names, and then all of the rows will be each of the demigods. And I'm going to try and figure out a way to work their deck lists into that spreadsheet. But basically, as you're going by row column, it will show you whether or not you should try to fight it, if you actually have a good chance, or if you should skip it. And every time I recommend that you must absolutely skip it. I'll explain why, like I just did with the Odious there. Or if you have a good matchup, I will generally say, here's why it's a good matchup, and here's the type of hands that you kind of need to keep. Here's what you're looking to accomplish early on in order to guarantee a success with this particular deck against this particular matchup, and here's what you got to watch out for if you still want to succeed. I think a lot of players have been asking for that for a while. It's just a lot of work that needs to go into it, because not only do you have to have a full deck list that has any chance of demigod farming, but you also have to have the full deck list and understanding how the AI works and the strategies of each of the demigods. And then after that, you have to do multiple play tests of multiple matchups through a lot of farming in order to get even a decent enough chance of experience with each demigod. So I think there's like there's about 25 demigods in the game, I believe. Probably more, probably less, but we'll say about 25. Let's say that there's an equal chance to get any of them, and you want to play at least 4 games with a particular deck against each specific demigod. You can't even guarantee these odds, because you can get paired up with the same demigod back to back to back to back to back, just because it's not a full distribution. It can be random. But let's say if you even wanted to play against Janus 4 times, you have to play a minimum of 100 games, just have a chance, assuming that everything is equal, to get those 4 games in with it. So you're probably looking at upwards of 150, 175, 200 games with a single deck, just to have enough of an idea to understand how a matchup against a very specific demigod goes. So I'm willing to play those games. I just need the decks for it. And also, another fun thing I've been doing is, as I've been trying to make this list, so I have the kind of like the original version of the Grating Guile list that I've been running. Then, and I started the spreadsheet based off of this. This was the first deck I was trying to go off of. But then after looking back at the deck and kind of evaluating it, I'm saying to myself, I only have 5 Supernovas. I need 6 because that's the most foundational card of the deck. And if I want to be more consistent, I would want another Precognition in order to change this 30 card deck into a 24 card deck as opposed to a 25 card deck, because that's basically what Precognition is. You're using it or getting rid of it to draw another card. It's its own replacement effect. So it's basically deck thinning, which is, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love deck thinning, but the more deck thinning I want, in order to keep the deck still at 30 card minimum, I have to figure out what I'm going to cut. And that's where I decided to cut an Adrenaline and cut a Shard of Bravery in order to add another Supernova and another Precognition. So now I have this version of the deck, which I think is better compared to what I had here. But even though I only changed 2 types of cards, that completely threw off the matchup. All of a sudden, some matchups that I was struggling with are not necessarily cakewalks, but there is no reason to say, oh, you're in this matchup, you need to auto-concede. I find that this deck can be, with this version, since I don't like Shard of Bravery as much and Adrenaline doesn't feel as necessary, but with 4 gifts of Oceanus and 6 Supernovas and enough Beguiles and Regrades in the deck, I'm finding that I'm getting my combo off consistently enough that I can outrace a Pele, which I never was able to really do when I had 3 shards and 2 adrenalines, as opposed to not enough deck thinning and not enough fundamentals of the combo. So that, even though I did complete the spreadsheet for this version of the deck, once I actually looked back at it, decided I wanted to make some changes, and actually changed it, it completely threw everything out the window. Now I have to re-go and do all the work for this version of the deck. And that's even assuming that this is the best version of the Regrade Beguile version of the deck. There's also the Give Tomb deck, which, you know, I'll take a look at that. I can evaluate that one separately. But that is going to be treated as a separate deck, even if it has the same game plan. And then, even though I'm going to do this next, I have not even started on what the matchup would look like for the Dream Phase deck. So a lot has to go into this in order for it to work. But I'm willing to put that effort in. I'm willing to make it work. I'm going to do that over time, and they will be separate videos when I talk about demigod farming and very specific matchups within that regard. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, what I'm really asking for, if you guys want to see more element content, I'm going to ask you to help me to help you. I can provide the entertainment, I can provide the deck text and the videos and the all the visuals and exposure for the deck that you want, if you can show me what decks you want to see. So that's my asking for help from you guys. Together, I think we can make this a really good community. I think we can put a lot of exposure out there for this game, and I'm excited to see where this all goes. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later on the Discord. See ya.